The internet brings comic fans around the world into one comic book community. Comic creators and comic fans, tonight you are seen, heard, recognized. Because comics are for everyone. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, live from Miami, Florida, broadcasting around the world. This is the Not Near Mint Show. Welcome to the 158th episode of Not Near Mint. This may be the final episode, not period, but for the final episode for the foreseeable future. Thing is that all of us here at Not Near Mint, we have day jobs. None of us get paid for this kind of stuff. We're professionals, which, wait, don't professionals get paid? We're not professionals. We're completely amateur. And the reason for this is that we want to make sure that we're able to give the comic community the content that they deserve, that they know more about the industry that they actually appreciate, not just necessarily the top 10 list, but many different creators across the spectrum. And tonight we have a very special guest. His name is Jeff Zanilotti, and he is joining us now with Michael Emond. Let's say hi to everybody. Hello, everybody.
Hey, thank you for having me. And you know what? If this is the last show, I promise not to be the reason that it's the last show.
Well, I might have put in here, this is the final episode. Let's see how it ends. It's going to end with X-Men comics. I'll just tell everybody that. Nice. Old ones. So stay tuned to see what they're going to be. It's definitely not issue 1 or 4. So you have a new comic book out. It's called Accidental Renegades. So tell us a little bit about it. It's basically 36 pages of manga-inspired comic craziness about bumbling superpowered mercenaries who unintentionally ignite a global revolution. Go ahead, Jeff. Tell us about it. How did this come together?
Well, I mean, you got the elevator pitch, pretty tight. One thing that I really do, I've always been a fan of comic books, always been a fan of reading comic books for as long as I can remember. Have always wanted to create my own comic books, but like a lot of other creatives, I always had excuses. I wasn't ready. There wasn't enough time. I didn't have the right equipment. All those things that we tell ourselves when we're afraid to take that leap. 2020 came, and when we put on lockdown for the pandemic, I decided that this was the time I was going to actually put my money where my mouth is. And instead of arguing with people on the internet, I was going to take that time to create something. Was able to put a one-shot together for Free Comic Book Day in 2021 called The Troublemakers. Got it out to about 5 local stores here in my area. And being able to hit that deadline and get the book to print, get it back in time, and then get in the shops really inspired me that this was something that I could do and with practice continue to do well. From there, I kind of transitioned to the new story, which is the Accidental Renegades. Like you said, it's an irreverent story about heroes that unintentionally ignite a global revolution. And I really wanted to flip the superhero trope kind of on its side, where so many heroes, their entire modus operandi is to go out and become a hero. But with the Accidental Renegades, these are individuals that didn't want to be heroes. They didn't want power. It was kind of, foisted upon them. And I think a lot of readers will be able to kind of identify with. Sometimes you're asked to grow up quicker than you want to. Sometimes circumstances outside your control put more responsibility on you than you might ever want. And you either rise to the occasion or you kind of crumble under the pressure. So this is an examination of that, of a group of powered people who never wanted power and never wanted responsibility and suddenly find themselves in the center of one of the biggest things that's happening in their history. So that's the Accidental Renegades. It's a personal story in the fact that it kind of serves as a voice to a lot of frustrations I feel. But it also is something that's been percolating for a while. So like a lot of stories, it's grown over time.
So this is mostly a story of a person meeting the moment, because not everybody strives to be a hero. Sometimes the hero is being foisted a situation upon somebody and you meet the moment.
Yeah, and as a group book, one thing, because it's a team, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to rise to the occasion, and certainly not that everyone's going to rise to the occasion the same way. Like any group, some people are going to embrace it, some people are going to rebel against it, and some people are going to fail. And this is, I call it PG-13 because it's not a children's book, but it's also not, X-rated. It's somewhere in the middle. And on the long history of this story, not every character is going to make it to the end. Some characters are going to change, irreparably, and some characters are going to become heroic. And I obviously won't tell you which ones those are.
That's probably a good thing because this way the reader can find out for
Right.
themselves.
Right. I wouldn't be a very good salesperson if I gave you the ending.
Although to be fair, there's sometimes like a few months ago, you had Kevin Smith, and he was trying to talk about Clerks 3, and rather than talking about Clerks 3, he spent 2 hours more than the runtime of this movie he was talking about, and it was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Great movie. Why are you talking about Clerks? Because this movie is so fantastic, and I cried. And I'm like, well, that's good, but you told us the ending of the movie at the same time. Now I really want to see that movie even more because he was
Right.
excited.
Well, you see, Kevin Smith can get away with that. Jeff's on a lot. He can't get away with that.
Well, now that we have the screen up here for Accidental Renegades, who are the characters that we're looking at right here on the screen?
Okay, so I guess I'll start at the top with the big robot looking guy. That's Mecha. His more or less his synopsis is that he suffered some injuries. That suit not only is a source of power for him, but it's also a source of his life support. He is a character who has been kind of beaten down by life, but has never lost his positive attitude. He kind of represents that person that no matter how bad things get, they always kind of face it with a smile. He kind of is like the heart of the team, if you will. Next to him, that dark alien looking guy with the white hair and beard is Eclipse. He's another interesting character because he has also dealt with some tragedy that we'll examine in the book, but he has kind of handled it in the opposite way. He's become bitter, angry. He kind of self-medicates to deal with that. He has a tremendous amount of power, but over the course of the story, we start to examine whether or not the amount of power he brings to the table is worth the amount of trouble he can sometimes cause. I'm going to jump to the big guy in the middle. That's the leader of the team. He is a world-weary old veteran who just wants to be left alone. He wants to live his life in peace. He's done a lot of things he's not happy about, and he wants to basically just earn a living and do what he wants to do. When he's thrust into the middle as pretty much the head of this group, who suddenly becomes the most notorious people around, he finds that attaining his goal might be impossible. So he either needs to change his goal or he needs to give up. And then the woman next to him is Kali. She's kind of the fighter of the group. So if Mecha is the heart, she's definitely the fists, and maybe the guy in the middle, maybe he's the brains. But Kali has a deep dark secret. She's fighting her own personal demons, and while she fights to support the team, she's also fighting against the darkness that kind of rages inside of her. And then the individual on the far right, I'm not going to tell you too much about that because that character is sort of key to the first issue, and their appearance really drives the remainder of the arc forward. So I'd rather let the readers kind of discover that character without being told too much, because I really feel like giving anything away about that character is giving too much away.
Okay, I'll just have to field this one question. Being that I just watched that latest episode of House of the Dragons, so you introduce a character that looks really, really cool. He's not going to die like right away, right?
Not right away. I don't. No, the truth is, there are no short-term plans to kill that character.
Good thing to know, because wow, I was watching that episode just the other day and I went like, wow, this is a cool character. Who is that? And they're gone.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. I can't do that.
The character's name.
And real quick, I just want to say, well, real quick, I just want to say a quick hello to Lady Fantastic. It's been a little while since we've seen you.
Hey, how's it going, dudes?
Doing some videos out there for for Lord of the Rings that's not written by Neil Gaiman. And for anybody that wants to know what's actually going on behind the scenes with all of the Tolkien lore, there is nobody else that I know who knows more about Tolkien than Lady Fantastic.
I decided that like Real World and the news, like I'm fucking over it. So I'm like, let me go back to Middle Earth. And I've just been like, I just embraced it. So I'm on a bender, man. I'm getting all of the lit, dude. I'm loving it.
Well, one of the cool things that I'm seeing here about this project that Jeff's working on is, and I stopped sharing the screen. Let's bring that back up here real quick. So this is a project that has only a couple days left, and it looks like you have not just reached, but have exceeded this.
Yes, I'm pretty happy. This is my first crowdfunding, my first Kickstarter, so obviously I'm very happy with the way it went. I made the rookie mistake of going for a 60-day campaign, which I was concerned because I had never done it before and wanted to give myself time to go through what I call discovery learning. I tend to figure things out as I'm halfway through them, and I wanted to make sure that halfway point was pretty far. What ended up happening in hindsight is I probably didn't need to do that. Built enough of a tribe ahead of time that I got some good support. But what essentially ended up happening was that the lull that happens in the middle of every campaign was just doubled in length because the campaign was doubled in length. So it's gonna end pretty soon. Hopefully looking forward to a strong finish. We hit 2 stretch goals already and hoping to make it to the 3rd. But if not, it's 1 for 1 on campaigns, and I'm looking forward to giving the people what they asked for.
Awesome. So looking at some of the art here, who did what on this book?
So I'm the idiot who did everything. I am the writer, I'm the artist, the letterer. I limited colors, but I do like the screen tones and the gray tones. Except for printing, I've said to people, it's a labor of love, but it's also a labor because I am wearing a few hats. It's taken up a lot of my time, but I honestly, I love it. It's my story, and I want to tell my story, at least for now. So to answer your question, the art is me, the words are me, pretty much everything except the printing right now is me.
Well, if this is all done solely and only by you, hats off to you, sir. Because I do not see that often. And when I do, it's like Frank Miller, and it's really, really quick and drawn together very fast. And this looks like it's taken an immense amount of time.
It is definitely taking time. Yes. And that is my biggest enemy. I actually, over the past about year and a half, made the transition from 100% traditional art to more or less 100% digital art. And one thing that I found it took a little bit of getting used to be completely honest with you. The first book I did digitally, I thought was good, but not great, only because I really didn't understand what the program could do quite yet. I run Clip Studio Paint, and it's an amazing program, but it takes time to learn.
You've ever used?
Literally, yes, the only one I've ever had. So I know people, will go back and forth. It's like the Coke Pepsi is this, Clip Studio, Procreate. I've never touched Procreate. I've seen people use it, and I do like some of the features, but I learned on Clip Studio, and that's all I know. And I'll probably brand loyal to that till I die. But I did find that with the first book I did, I was proud of a lot of things, but didn't really know what I was doing and had to learn a little bit. But in the areas where I'm slow, using digital makes me actually much, much quicker. And it is a much better investment of time. I'm the person that will erase a line 100 times until it gets right. And if you're working traditionally, eventually you're starting to ruin the paper, and you still see the marks. And
I could see that.
So digitally, I can, make a mistake and literally hit the back arrow and it's done. And I also find that allows me to be a lot more loose and take a lot more chances because I'm not afraid of screwing up. And I feel like that energy is really starting to come out, maybe more so than traditionally. When you have the, expensive piece of Bristol in front of you, you're scared of every line because that's not cheap paper, and you don't want to mess it up. But digitally, I'll throw down a bunch of lines. If it looks like trash, I'll just undo it and start again. It literally costs seconds. So there is a lot of upside to it. But it does take a lot of learning to get used to it.
Sure.
Oh, were you going to say something, lady?
No, I was just thinking about that. It's funny how different industries have different interfaces like this that everybody goes to. That's a standard, hell, with streaming, I guess it's something like StreamYard or whatever the hell it is. But like for like in science or whatever. What?
No, I was saying, oh, my bad.
Yeah, like when we publish, the only files they'll take are AI files, Adobe Illustrator files, and so it's just funny. There's certain interfaces that are exclusive to certain professions, and Adobe Illustrator is really just it's non-intuitive, intentionally tough to use Photoshop. So people can say that they are certified to work with it, but all it is a really poor, non-intuitive version of Photoshop. But once you figure it out, you can do actually a lot more.
Right.
OBS, there you go. Well, also, I seem to remember Stray Dogs, for an example. Trish Forstner, she was the artist on the book. If you would have looked at the original art compared to the colors, the digital version of it, it's night and day. You would never know that the line art that Trish did would be the same thing used for the final product. Yet when that went for sale, wow, that went for thousands of dollars.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. To come, if I ever have issues, I may hit you up because I use it to make figures. Anyways, he's a nerd. He's a engineering nerd. Nobody likes him. A mechanics nerd. Okay, I like him. He's all right. He's at Rose City Comic Con. I think they drove out there or flew out there or something. You said you were out of town. For
Yeah,
that.
Tacoma can't hear you right now because he just said that he's currently at the bar and he won't be able to hear anybody protesting about the fact that this may or may not be the very final episode. It's not.
It's not.
Just for a little while.
We'll just may revert back to a more classical format.
There you go. As Michael said, we're going to take a short sabbatical. And when we come back, we'll be a bit more refreshed. It's not like I'm going to stop getting comic books every week.
Rob just needs to come to Jesus for a minute.
Well, to be fair, I am a part of AA and I do have to do all my steps, which I did, but we kind of do them over and over and over and over forever. So that's just one other thing that takes up a bit of time. But yeah, more than anything is just about time and managing it properly, because we do run this scroll at the bottom of the show as often as we can, and we try and emphasize that mental health is something that's very important. A lot of people wind up incorporating parts of this into their own books, and you're never alone if there's anything going on wrong in your life, because we're part of a comic book community. If you pick up and read comics, if you pick up and collect them, then you're one of us, just as long as you're not trying to shit all over everybody else to make yourself feel a little bit better.
What? No, that's what are you talking about? Shitting on people to make yourself feel better. Isn't that how anybody should review? Like, that's all Lord of the Rings reviews are now.
Seriously.
It's really like, or like She-Hulk reviews.
I was gonna say, I think that's how every review of everything is right now. Yeah.
And I was talking about, I think I mentioned this, but I feel like there's this industry of outrage, and like, people are just starting to make content for like outrage for outrage's sake. And it's just like, I don't have time for that, man. That's too much.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. It's people are basically monetizing anger. So if you can keep your fans angry for a long enough time, they'll watch you. And if you give them an enemy, whoever the enemy is. And look, I'm an independent comic guy. I grew up on the big two, but I also don't love everything they're doing right now. And I think they're missing a lot. And that's fine. That's part
if you care about the big two, then you will criticize them accordingly.
Right. Absolutely. And the other thing that I've said before is, if you put, say, Spider-Man in a direction that I don't like, it doesn't take away the memories I have of the stories I love. Right. Like those stories don't suddenly cease to exist just because, Spider-Man gets divorced or, gets a black girlfriend or, has a gay child. None of that changes the fight with Firelord or the fight with Juggernaut or, Uncle Ben dying. Like, none of those things change just because it goes in a direction that I don't like. I love some bands and they put out an album that is a departure that I don't like. That doesn't mean their other songs suck. Like, all their other songs are still awesome. And it frustrates me when a lot of people look at it in those terms, just because the creative direction that a story goes is different from the way you would have taken it. That doesn't necessarily mean that the story's bad. It's just not your thing.
Right. And it's just like, dude, and just because something is not necessarily directed or targeted specifically to you does not give you the right to be angry about it or to shit on something. Do you know, like, look, I was saying before, like, I've been female my whole life. Do you know how many movies star dudes? Do you know how not angry I get about that? Do you know how open I am to like fucking watching it? But then, like, you see now movies that are like star chicks or somebody that's, that's slightly melanated, and dudes are shitting themselves. And it's just like, bro, calm the fuck down.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I did a count once where I was like, I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was, let's just say 32 Marvel properties. I don't recall what the number was. Of those 32, like 6 were people of color or female led. That's not a huge amount. Like, you shouldn't get upset about that. And also, for my personal opinion, She-Hulk is a really good show. Like, I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, it's goofy, but it's supposed to be. Like, it's not a bad show. It's entertaining. it hits the mark that it's supposed to hit for that character. Getting mad at She-Hulk is like getting mad at Deadpool for being R-rated. Like that's the spirit of the character. So
It's if you've read John Byrne, you know how
Right.
his humor is.
right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of goofy and campy, but like that's what I'm there for. I'm there for the camp. Like I'm there for the corny 1970s like ninja kicks, Titania into a desks, that kind of stuff. But,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't need the CG to be so spot on and photorealistic. I just need it to be entertaining.
Yeah, I don't want to be taken out of the story by the CGI, but I also don't need it to be so realistic that it like I can't tell it from reality. That's my personal opinion.
Dude, we used to watch Battlestar Galactica from the 70s and the early 2000s at that. I mean, the CGI wasn't the top tier stuff that we're seeing today, but we still loved it. They still told good stories, and they weren't 100% spot on, but they passed the time accordingly.
I will say the other side of that coin is a couple of years ago when Netflix put out the Dark Crystal series. We went back and watched the Dark Crystal original show from '83 or whenever it was, and it does not hold up very well. Like the effects that blew my mind when I was a kid. Like I was watching it, I was in love with it. It was amazing. Those puppets don't emote like CGI does, and we my wife and I forced our kids to watch, and about halfway through, they're like, "Do we have to watch this?" My wife and I are like, "No, you guys can go. You guys can go." We turned off. We're like, "That was disappointing. That was not what I expected." So sometimes, not holding up is a problem, but sometimes it isn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times there's a lot of things that just don't hold up because as a child, like you don't notice plot holes because you're a kid.
Yeah.
And things just have a different air of magic or whatever. Your critical thinking's not like, you know what I mean? But Fraggle Rock, I love.
Fraggle Rock was great. I won't watch Fraggle Rock now because I don't want it to be spoiled. Same reason I will not watch The Neverending Story again is because I've been told it doesn't really hold up now, and I just have too many memories of that movie to want to ruin it.
I still like it.
It does.
It's a really great commentary.
Really? Okay. I've been told by people that like the rock monsters and a couple things just based on what you're used to now.
So for me, Rock Monster was like the most still appropriate because it's like he's basically speaking about like fucking pollution. And theirs, it's like the pollution of evil. But he's just saying, rocks are empty. I have no place to go anywhere. Like, I don't belong anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, and so I think like Neverending Story has some profound stuff. And, are the effects maybe a little campy? Yes. But like, I think the script is solid with like the values and what they're trying to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Orin for life, baby.
Can you tell that she just watched it recently?
Maybe it's a problem that the message still rings true today.
No, I mean, look, I haven't watched it recently, but like I watched the crap out of it as a kid.
Yeah.
So I mean, like there are certain scenes. Oh, the big tortoise that sneezes, and then like when Artax is like, in the mud. Oh my god, emotions.
What did he yell when he jumped off that cliff? Because all I hear is what did he yell?
When he's trying to yell the chick's name?
Maybe.
When at the very end, but that's Bastion. Say it, Bastion, please.
What does
say
he say?
my name? And he's like, "You're a bitch." No, I don't know.
Go back home.
Michael, you're Mr. Vinyl, right?
Me? No.
No, Michael Emond. Okay, that's you.
I'm a different Michael.
Just
I'm not Michael Malone.
Oh.
Yeah, I accidentally wrote the wrong person when I was right up this morning.
But you look similar to the guy that wrote Vinyl.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, no. But I know what you mean.
But sorry. I'm sorry. I mistook you for somebody that I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Well, Michael did have a question, so go ahead and shoot.
Ask
So
them.
Jeff, I want to talk about your comic book more.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, got off track on that one.
That's okay.
Sorry, guys.
So this is I don't have much to go on, but I wanted to know how the Hindu ninja vampire, is it okay for him to drink blood because he's Hindu? Because I know they have dietary restrictions. Is that a concern?
That is an interesting question, and maybe I didn't look through the cultural sensitivity of that fully, but yeah, the Hindu ninja vampire is actually Kali. That's the female character. I wanted I originally, and it's interesting to look at over the course of time how a story kind of changes, and that character originally was a female ninja, and I felt like that was a little bit too I don't know, commonplace for lack of a better word. Just everyone has ninjas in their team. I felt like it was just not. It wasn't what I really wanted to tell. I wanted to represent a little bit more diversity, and I wanted to represent a little bit more of religious and cultural diversity, and having a character in there that is still a brawler and still very powerful. With kind of the historical embodiment of Kali, the goddess of destruction. The fact that character, that individual, that deity, I guess, is very much based on blood and violence. I felt that making it vampiric was a good way to kind of pay homage to the cultural Kali in the character of Kali. So it's kind of a way to to pull from something historical and make it relevant, but at the same time, it makes sense. It's not, the character's not named Kali and has nothing to do with, the Hinduism or the historical of that deity. It actually is kind of rooted in that. And as you go through the story, you kind of find out how that came about. And it's actually part of a cabal of vampires, all from different ethnicities at different time periods, all who have kind of a different, we'll call it a different, not a gimmick, but a different shtick, which is, I guess, a gimmick. So, a different background.
And a kind of more personal question with you. Are you self-taught? Did you have training in this field? I love the snapshots I'm getting from. They're so beautiful. They're so reformed.
No, I'm not. I mean, aside from the high school art classes, I'm not really formally trained. I've been drawing and writing for most of my life, as long as I can remember. I did take a little bit of a break when I discovered girls and got a family, kind of, took a break from drawing a little bit and really kind of focused on social life and family and job and everything else. And then eventually just missed it so much that I came back to it. So there was probably a gap in development that I missed out on. But I do often wonder, like, what would have happened if I, would have went to art school and, had the opportunity to really focus on it. But
don't what if it.
You're right. You're right.
Do a summer course. Do a summer course.
And I was actually thinking about doing that, and it's funny you say that, because one thing that drives me a little bit crazy about digital art is where I'm at. There's with the exception of like Skillshare and YouTube, there's not a class where you can just pick up your tablet and go in and learn Clip Studio. At least it isn't offered anywhere near me.
Well,
and I was
sorry.
No,
I'm
go ahead.
About OG analog. Like, you go to schools or like civic centers will offer like art classes.
Yeah.
You can get in there with some graphites, learn how to do it on there, and then just like translate it. Because I'm telling you, like, my grandmother was an artist, but it's when I actually did this thing during the summer, and it was called like a Moore School of Design, and it was an art school, and you could choose the classes that you wanted to get more like experience in. And there was a comic class where it shows how you do you drawing and then inking over with Pilot Precise, like old school, but also learning how to shade and learning how to create depth on just grayscale. I found so helpful. And it's like, it could take your shit to, you can start.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because when you're untrained like this, that honestly gives you an advantage because you have a unique perspective. But if you can just get some like more tools in your toolbox, fucking take off, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point. And one other thing I was discussing with someone earlier is the digital age and everything that we're doing now is really kind of met the ending of the old studio method, where a bunch of artists like an Image or DC or whatever would just all sit in a big room with their drawing tables and play music and have sodas and pizza and just draw all night.
That's sad.
Because it's so sad, right? Because I often wonder, like, how great would it be to just literally be able to turn around and go, hey, how I'm dealing with this problem, I can't figure out, how are you going to handle it? Like, let me see your stuff. Let me take a look. Just the constant inspiration. And I've been in a couple situations, like professionally, where, big brain people were talking about big ideas, and it's incredibly inspirational. Like, it motivates you to want to think bigger just from being around people that, a rising tide lifts all ships or whatever. And I would imagine that, like, that situation would just be amazing. And unfortunately, I don't think we really have that or need it anymore. I should say we don't need it from a business perspective, but from a creativity perspective, I think it would
Yes,
be
the
great to
fuck
have
you
it back.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, well, look, I'm going to tell you, like I work in science, and what we do now is different labs collaborate, because just because you have one pathway that you're studying doesn't mean that you can't approach it from 3 different techniques and suss it apart in different layers. And so that whole collaboration and being with different like people that want to be just as good but know their shit too, it makes you want to be a better whatever you're going to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, that's the kind of energy you want to feed off of, and you want to be around people that make you want to be better at what you do. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would correlate this to. Oh yeah, go ahead. Silver Knight Kyle's saying the studio with Wrightson, Kaluta, Jones, and Barry Windsor Smith would have been heaven to sit amongst.
Oh, and forget it. That would have been
just
crazy.
Recently, we lost Tom Palmer. He was a long time Avengers artist, and when he passed, we got to hear about all the people that he influenced. And when I'm thinking like somebody like Klaus Janson, I'm thinking that he's somebody from several generations ago, and he was talking about Tom Palmer in the reverence of, I was still learning things from that man to this day. With artists, just like I had imagined with science and many industries, it's a symbiotic relationship. And
Klaus Janson did OG Black Panther shit.
Absolutely.
Man.
I mean, he did the inking on Wolverine 1 through 4, the original limited series.
Old Frank and Chris. So they first met up. I don't know if you know this, Jeff, but since I just know random shit, but like fucking John Carter, Warlord of Mars, issue 18 is the first time Frank Miller does any work with Marvel, but it's also the first time that he meets up with Chris Claremont, because Chris Claremont is writing on that series, and it's shortly after they meet in from that title that they create that Wolverine mini. It's just like fucking history, man.
Well, it's kind of like with Daikon 3 and 4, and now I'm talking anime, but hey, we were already talking about a manga-inspired kind of property with his series, Accidental Renegades. But way back in the day, with Daikon 3 and 4, these were anime conventions that the first one was probably attended by less than maybe 500 or 800 people. And these people would sit around for almost a year, hand-drawing animation to present for the opening of the ceremony. And one of those people was the lead director of Neon Genesis Evangelion. And had these people not all attended the same space at the same time together, they might not have had the opportunity to go, hey, I kind of have an idea to make something.
As a kid, man, I always just drew my favorite characters, and I should draw more. My grandmother was an artist, but don't you find it therapeutic as well? Even if it's not for something, it just gets out.
And that is a perfect way of putting it. I've kind of said the same thing. Like, people have often asked me, do you, if you write it and draw it, what do you prefer? Do you prefer writing or drawing? And I think my stock answer is, I find writing easier. I find that the words tend to come a little bit easier, and writing is probably quicker. I can definitely write faster than I draw, but it's, drawing is therapeutic, but it's also like meditative. Like, you just can lose track of time, and you're just putting lines down. And, I don't know about you, but I'm the person, I mumble, I talk to myself. Yes. I'm like, okay, well, if that goes here, then I have to put this here.
You know what it's called? It's called being in flow.
Yeah, just like,
present as you possibly can be.
I'll be like, all right, now if this hand's coming at me, it needs to be bigger. And I'm like mumbling this. My lips are, I'm like, okay, and then this is
how does the light hitting? Is this
right? Yeah, it's like, okay, well, she can't be smiling because she's angry, and okay, right. And I look back and I'm like, I'm glad no one's watching me, because they're just looking at some idiot moving his lips by himself, like wondering what this guy's doing. But also, and the next time I look at the clock and 3 hours have passed. So
you're doing this all yourself, so you're in control of continuity of how everything lines up from A to B. But my biggest question now comes as being the creator of writer and artist, where sometimes a writer doesn't know exactly how the process of an artist takes. So writing a comic is completely different from writing a novel, and you have to write per the page. So since you're writing for yourself as an artist, do you notice limitations, or do you notice any differences that now that you're doing this for yourself that you might do differently had it been a different artist entirely?
Well, I mean, that's a good question because I don't have a collaborator. I'm able to take some shorthand and some shortcuts, and my process is a little bit circuitous in that I'll start by just determining the page number, and each page I'll put at the top of the page what the major story beats are for that page. So in this page there needs to be an explosion, or there needs to be two characters kiss, or whatever the major action of that page is. And I'll do that for each page. So now I know that the page turns are in the right places, that if I'm starting on page 1, then my major page turns need to be on odd numbered pages, because that's when the reader is going to turn the page. So if I do it backwards, I have the major events, the major cliffhangers happening on the wrong page, where since the book is open, the reader can already see it. So I have to make sure I kind of plan that so that they're going to physically have to turn the page to get to what they see. So that helps me hit those major story beats. From there, I'll kind of go back, and that's where I'll start to determine panels and dialogue and specific emotions of that. And because it's just me, that step is just a big loop. Like I'll come over and over and over again, and I'll refine it. Even today I'm finishing up some of the panels for Accidental Renegades and determining that I don't want to use a non-panel grid anymore. That's a bad idea. So I'm going to do it this way. And I did not know that when I first started doing it, but as I went through it, I realized that it tells the story better to do it this way. And that's kind of how I work it. The downside to that is I have to be careful, because I actually heard an interview with someone who was a writer and artist, and he says that the writer in him, or the artist in him, often hates the writer in him, because the writer makes the artist in him do things he hates doing. So if you hate drawing horses, the script calls for like a stampede of hundreds of horses, and you're like, God damn it, I hate the writer in me who made the artist in me do this. So I do have to remain aware of that, and I have to make sure that I'm not avoiding those things because I don't like to draw that thing. I don't want to ruin the story for that. So occasionally I will be very aware that this page is going to suck, but it's going to suck because I'm making it suck, because it's what I need to tell for the story. And I kind of just, I just deal with that. But the one downside is, without having a collaborator, I feel like you really have to be careful that you don't lose the forest through the trees and end up missing your own pitfalls because you're the only person looking at it. So I'll usually have a couple people kind of proofread stuff and make sure it's making sense and make sure the story flows. Not an editor per se, although I am, looking at that in the future, but just like a beta reader, someone who can kind of make sure the story flows smoothly, because you know how it is when you're doing it yourself, you often don't see it if there's a slip up somewhere. And the first book I did, The Troublemakers, I laughed, but I cringed at the same time. I proofread that thing at least 100 times. At least 100 times. And when I sent it to the printer, there was a bit of a formatting issue. So I had to kind of mess with the way a couple of the pages were set up. And in doing so, one of the word bubbles ended up kind of shrinking, and the last word in that bubble was cut off. So it's not a major problem. It didn't really ruin the story, but it was clearly the bubble clearly needed to have another word in there. And I was looking so much at like the one thing I never noticed, that get the books back, getting ready to deliver them to stores. And my teenage son is flipping through and he's like, yeah, this is really cool, but I think I caught a mistake. So I'm like, no, there's no way you caught a mistake, son. I've read this thing 100 times. And I'm like, I'm getting like really being a dick about it. I'm like, there's no way I made a mistake, son. You must be mistaken. I don't, and he shows to me. I was like, you goddamn kidding me.
You little bastard.
I was like, God, I was like, I'm going to go in the other room. I'm going to curse a lot because I have like 150 of these that I have to hand out to stores. But the one thing I did say is it's free comic book day. So if you want to complain about a typo in a free comic book, that's cool. You can do that. But it's a free. I would feel super bad. I'd feel worse if I was selling it. But it was a free comic book day book, and I got it out in the stores on time. And I was like, I'm sure people may not notice it, but I'll always notice it.
What was the word?
Yeah, I'm curious.
I don't recall, but it's basically like, it was like an introductory scene where the characters were getting introduced to the company that they were a part of now. It was a book. The Troublemakers was about a young man who joins an internship for aspiring supervillains. So it was kind of like the opposite of like the X-Men and, those sorts of academies, where it was young adults who wanted to become supervillains, who were trained and worked in a supervillain company, basically. And it was like their introductory day, and they were meeting the human resources person. And I don't recall what she was saying, but it was like the exposition of why that world needed that company to exist is essentially what purpose that it was a double page spread served, in that story. And it was basically like, welcome to your first day at, the, Yago Academy. And I think it was like Academy was cut off or something. So again, it didn't ruin the story. It wasn't like a key moment, but it was still jarring enough that I felt like bad CGI. If it takes you out of the story for a second, it's kind of doing a disservice. And it definitely took me out of the story, and I knew the story. So I'm sure it definitely wasn't perfect, but when is it ever?
Well,
It was
we're about to
close.
show some comics here, but there is something I want to correlate to this. So if you ever worried that you made a mistake, at least you didn't make a mistake so bad that you credited Captain America: The End to being created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee
Ooh.
instead of Joe Simon.
Eee.
They did that. That happened. And well, you didn't do that bad.
That's true. That is true. And not nearly as many people saw it. That's the other thing.
Yeah, you're not going to have a whole story written up by
Right.
people. And also at the same time, at least at the end of this episode, you won't be talked about all over the internet for kicking over a pee bottle.
Right.
So
God. No. Well, not right now. If this goes a few more hours, who knows?
yeah, we're not going to go 4 or 5 hours and fall asleep halfway through. But this does beg the question. Do you read comics and do you pick up stuff from week to week?
I read comics. I'm a pretty religious comic book reader. I am not religious week to week. I am religious. Get down there. I've got the local comic shop here in my town. I've been going to for a very long time. I'm very good friends with the owner. It's Bailey's Comics in Lindenhurst, New York. If you're ever in the area, you got to check it out. It's a small, quaint little shop, but they have everything. Great shop. The owner's a guy named Trung. He and I have known each other for quite some time. He runs a great shop, but he has a kind of an ongoing pull list for me. And when I get in, I just get a stack of stuff. I don't get in weekly. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but with work and family, it's kind of hard to. I tend to trade weight more so because of that, because I can't get there every week. It's, I'm really afraid to miss an issue. I collected Saga, religiously, and then missed the first 2 issues of the new run. So I just said, I'll just wait until the trade comes out. I don't want to, get pieces of it. The same thing with a lot of the X-Men stuff that I collect. I tend right now, if I'm not collecting manga, manga volumes, I'm trade waiting just because I want to have it all together. And I find that I'm following more artists than titles. So if an artist I love will bounce around to a different title, I will generally follow him or her along in that title, because I like to be inspired by the art. And that's just kind of my methodology.
I tend to follow Humberto Ramos, so if he
Yes.
jumps from a book, I will jump on with him.
I did the same thing. When Astonishing X-Men come out, I made sure I got it. When he moved to Strange Academy, I was on that.
I like to feel little rise.
Yes, his Spider-Man run, I was on that too. There's actually a handful of artists that I kind of, when I became an adult, I eventually wanted to start collecting original art from, the artists that I would follow. So if an artist started on a title, if I would pick up that title, if I never read that character before, that's a piece of art I want to own for, original art I want to own from those favorite artists. Like that was my milestone. So I started, going and buying what I could. And I was able to get an Humberto Ramos page and a Pepe Larraz page, Chris Bachalo page, Matteo Scalera.
I love Simone Bianchi and Isa.
Yeah, like those are two I don't have. My holy grail, my personal holy grail right now is Joe Madureira. He is one that blew my mind when he came out with Uncanny X-Men and then on Battle Chasers. One of my favorite artists. I don't have Joe Mad money right now. Like
I have
a good
Colleen
page of Joe
Duran.
Mads is
I've got a Colleen Duran original cap.
Yeah, that's awesome. But like, I would love, like, I look online, I look at his his store, and I'm like, man, I really would love that page, but I just don't have $13,000 burning a hole in my pocket right now. I would love that double page spread. It's stunningly gorgeous. But maybe one day. So
all I have is a sketch that Rob Liefeld did for me back when he lived down here in South Florida. And he did a quick little sketch, and people kept saying, "That's not him. That's not him." It's like no one knew who he was then, and it was Shaft, his character from Youngblood.
Yeah, I actually got lucky. I was at Comic-Con several years ago. It was the only New York Comic-Con I've been able to get to. And I brought a whole bunch of books to get signed. I had the Battle Chasers hardcover because Joe Mad was going to be there. I had a copy of Astonishing X-Men #1. And I wanted to get Humberto Ramos' signature. So I was waiting by his table. And this is my one and only Comic Pro story. I was waiting by his table and they were like, hey, he's not here. He went to walk around. Whatever. Okay, fine. So I just stand there waiting, minding my own business. And I was just standing wherever I was standing. And all of a sudden I feel like a pair of hands on my shoulder, like kind of like, but not me, but like kind of more like, your father would put his hands on your shoulder. And I turn around, it's Humberto Ramos. And I realized that I was standing in the gap between his table and his neighbor's table. So I was basically in his way. So I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I stepped to the side and, he came in. He's like, no problem. We talked for a few minutes. And I was flipping through the pages that he had there on the table. And it was his manager kind of holding the table for him. His manager basically said, hey, this guy's been waiting for, a little while. Would like to get you to sign this book. So he's like, yeah, sure. And he signs the book. And he's like, we have the whole creative team here. You want them all to sign. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So like the inker, the colorist, they all signed it. And, the agent was like, he'd been kind of waiting for like, 20 minutes. So he's like, what, if you were waiting for 20 minutes here, you go, it's free. Don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, no, like I certainly didn't want that. It was just kind of cool. And so when everyone talks about what was your I Met a Comic Pro story, it's a low grade story, but I was like, Humberto Ramos put his hands on my shoulder and signed a book for free. And that's kind of cool, I guess, because he's awesome. And I love his style, but yeah, I can't, definitely not a prima donna, definitely, does not seem to have an ego that I could tell. It seems like a pretty down to earth guy who's just genuinely happy to be doing what he's doing. So I was happy to pay money for his stuff. Yeah, most of them are. Yeah, you hear stories from time to time, but I, in my limited experience, have not dealt with anyone who was negative. At least no one that you can't just block and move on.
It's just like regular life. There's always going to be some
right.
They might not have eaten. They might have been going through shit, but we never know what someone is going through up until the point that we meet them. So if someone is having a bad day, I'll try and brush it off. But if it happens twice, holy shit, now I'll have a story about that.
Yeah. Person. And you hear these stories and regardless of whether you like an artist or not, these people who like go up and are like insulting to artists at cons, if you don't like a person, just don't buy their stuff. Like if you're like a hate peddler, that's one thing.
The
like
outrage
you're asking for it. Yeah, but like to go up, and again, I'll just use this as an example. And I'm not the biggest Rob Liefeld fan. Like, I mean, I respect him for what he's done for the medium, but I don't seek him out. It's just not my style of preference. But to hear the stories about the people who like go up and hand him how to draw books at at cons, it's like that's just again, I'm not again, it's not to disparage him. He's accomplished stuff that is incredibly impressive, but I don't necessarily seek out his work. It just doesn't inspire me like a lot of others do. But I would never go up to him ever and insult him because he's still a professional who's, look, and I'll use the music example. Plenty of bands I don't like, but I won't shit on them. Like, I'll just be like, I'll just change the station when your song comes on, but I'm not going to shit on you about it because that's not my style. It's not what I like.
It's just like, look, I may not like Rob Liefeld, but maybe people who have never gotten into comics see something of his on Deadpool and it brings them to comic shops. And I don't want to hate on things that are bringing people into LCSs and getting them to look at books. Like, I just don't want to be that person.
Yeah. And it's subjective. Like I said, Chris Bachalo is one of my favorite artists, but he's very polarizing. A lot of people don't like his work, probably for the same reason that I like his work. So, taste is subjective. And if someone likes something, that's fine. But if you don't like it, that doesn't necessarily give you the right to, to be a jerk. If a pro is a jerk to you and you want to give it back, I guess that's a different story. But to just like seek someone out to be a jerk to them, like, I don't know. I just feel like I don't have that kind of time. I got too much shit to do. I'm not going to do that.
So I've said this time and time again, it doesn't matter what I like, it matters what everybody likes, because I might not be the type of person that will read My Little Pony or Bob's Burgers. Mm-hmm. I'll read Amazing Spider-Man, I'll read Stray Dogs, but maybe the person that's reading My Little Pony might not want to read Stray Dogs because they don't want to see their favorite pet massacred.
Yeah.
So I understand that. It doesn't matter what I like. It's to the masses. And there's always the niche that there will be there for that type of person.
And it's one thing to say, hey, the way you draw feed is crap. And another thing to say, you're crap. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you wanted to critique their whatever, that's fair because you're putting yourself out there as an artist. Just like if I publish a paper, I expect the peer review people to come back with critiques and say, well, here's where we see holes and here's where you should try this, this, and this. I mean, and it only makes you better. It should make you better, right?
Yeah.
But just saying, oh, this, instead of saying, I didn't like this because the feet didn't look like human feet, instead of saying Rob Liefeld's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
at least you're getting some sort of feedback that you can work
Right.
with.
Right. Yeah. You know, like, I don't like the way you draw this particular thing, so I'm just not going to pick up stuff you do, but I'm not going to make anyone else feel bad for doing it. I'm not going to shit on that. It just, to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's just like Rob said, like, everyone kind of has their own style. Everyone has that thing that they like. When I was, working on this book, I was listening to something and about the branding of it and the elevator pitch and all those other things that you really need to have on a campaign to make sure it's successful. And what I heard someone say is, if you say that your book is for everyone, then your book is probably not very good, because no book should be for everyone, unless it's I'll stick with that. No book should necessarily be for everyone, because even a all ages book is still not for everyone. It just isn't likely to get anyone in trouble. If your comic book that you're producing is for everyone, then you probably haven't figured out what your story is. And you're just so very vague in it. And I was like, that's a really good point. I think my story will cross into a lot of different areas, but I don't think it's for everyone. And I certainly don't think a book should be for everyone. Right. So good night. So yeah, I think it's important to know what your preferences are, and then find people who gravitate towards that preference. And if someone likes My Little Pony, if someone likes, Bob's Burgers, if someone likes manga, if someone likes, certain types of manga, let them enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because comics are for everyone, but not every comic is for everyone.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I recall a movie coming out right in the middle of the pandemic where they were trying to make something like a zombie movie, but political, where it would, I don't know who they were trying to make this for, but it would be for those that are from the right and those from the left. Wait, what? So you're making fun of both sides? How does that appeal to either side? No one wants to, and guess what? No one went to go see it, and I don't even remember the name of it.
There are only two movies that I can remember that could appropriate, and I don't know if you could even still do them, but two movies I can remember that effectively skewered both sides, and that was Blazing Saddles and Airplane. The only two movies that took, to quote the Brits, took the piss out of everyone and still managed to do it well. Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe three. Yeah, but as far as just
fun of both sides, you took them both completely seriously, and still everybody died at the end because morons, you just couldn't find out the common cause to get out of the house from some slow-moving creatures.
Yeah, I can remember being much, much younger and watching Blazing Saddle with my older brother, and him talking to me about it and saying, nobody got mad at that because everybody got insulted. Like, no one felt picked on because everybody was picked on. Pretty much everyone. Racial, religious, ethnic. There was nothing that was off the table for Mel Brooks in that story. So it was almost like you can't get mad because everyone was taking their lumps right there along with you. And it was a one of a kind movie. But yeah, very few can straddle that line, and I don't think most people do it well.
Well, we're about to show some comics that we just picked up. Some of us have some new stuff. Some of us have some old stuff. I have the old stuff, and I have a video at the very tail end of all the new books that I picked up. So
I have old stuff and new stuff.
Awesome.
Old stuff and blue stuff.
I guess we're all ready. So, Jeff, are you ready to show some comics?
Yes, I've got you can't see it because it's off camera, but I have a phenomenally tall read pile that I have not gotten through. Creating comics doesn't leave a ton of time for reading comics. So I'm just going to go through some of what I have right now.
Grab your stuff. Inspired. We're going to play the intro, and we're just going to get to showing some books. Here we go.
All right, thanks. It gives me time to move it.
Our last comic book therapy for a little while, maybe a month.
I'm going to get what I want.
Christ.
Comic books. Comic books.
Oh my god.
Comic books.
Let's get some
comic books.
Let's get some comic books. Let's get some comic books. Let's get some comic books.
It's Old Comics Day, and I should probably change that banner to no longer read Wednesdays, but when we come back, we're going to figure out a proper day. So, Jeff, did you pull those books, and do you want to go first?
I got them. Yeah, okay. So I really kind of have two reading styles. I have the Western comics that I'm reading. I also have the manga that I'm reading. So I'll start with the manga. I'm getting back into One Piece. So I've got the master volume of
nice.
1, 2, and 3.
Lord.
Pretty hefty read. But you got to get back into the classics every once in a while. It's almost like being an author and writing, going back to Shakespeare. You got to go back to the goats to every once in a while, kind of keep yourself grounded.
Jeff, if they were putting that all together in those kind of volumes, would the entirety of One Piece to this point in 1, 2, 3s pretty much fill your entire room?
Definitely a large bookshelf for sure. Yeah, definitely a large bookshelf.
Or two.
Yeah, or two. Yeah. And it's getting close to the end, but 1,000+ chapters in, I guess close is relative. So that's one thing that I'm reading. Another mangaka that I'm a huge fan of is Kohei Horikoshi. He does My Hero Academia. So I'll be completely honest with you I love it, so I'm critical of it. I feel like the story itself is starting to go a little bit off the rails with the current volumes. I feel like he's kind of losing his way a little bit from the plot, but I think from an art standpoint, there's very few people that I admire more than Kohei Horikoshi. His art style is gorgeous. It's incredibly inspirational. It's the kind of art that simultaneously inspires you and discourages you, because it's so gorgeous that you want to continue reading it, but it almost makes you feel like you're never going to get to that level. So whenever I read My Hero Academia, I love it, but at the same time, I'm reminded of how far I have to go.
Well, it's kind of like also Bleach, where they just want to keep the story going because as long as they can make money, who cares?
Yeah, but you know what? Like, he's been very, very candid about the fact that the story is entering its final chapters, but I don't know. Like, again, I don't want to be overly critical, but at the same time, I want to show, respect to the fact that I love it. There's a lot of things happening currently that I feel are going a little bit off plot. Characters doing things that they've never indicated that, the character could do before that are critical to the story. Suddenly it's almost kind of like an ass pull where a character was like, oh, well, I can solve this problem by doing this thing that I've never indicated I was able to do in the previous, 500 chapters, but it's okay because it will save the day. And it's like, I kind of felt like the fans are catching these holes before the author does, and that's problematic. But I've got that. I've got 2 copies of Arc Athena that I need to get into, which is Eric Canetti's creator-owned volumes that he put out. I find I'm liking Eric Canetti's art a lot more. I'm really loving the energy that he's putting into it. This book is gorgeous. I really haven't gotten into the story yet, but it looks great. And then the last thing, I'm going a little old school with another monster, the complete volume of Cyberforce. I will tell you that I know you said you were going to talk X-Men. I'm not sure what X-Men you're going to talk about, but my personal opinion is while Jim Lee gets GOAT status, that Mark Silvestri does not nearly get as much credit as he deserves for his impact on those stories, and that the Inferno, Mutant Massacre, Fall of the Mutants, those storylines are so critical that I almost think that he got overshadowed just because he was sitting in the same bullpen as Jim Lee. But Mark Silvestri's art is gorgeous. Probably some of his best work was on those those volumes back then. So I'm kind of a little old school and a little new school, and just trying to find time to read them. And right now I don't have that
time. What is that?
You're exactly. If anyone has any extra, I'd love to get some.
I think that's all of us at this point. Do you have any more?
That's pretty much it. I've got a few independent books that I'm getting in the mail. I'm backing a lot of people, making sure I'm trying to support indie comics creators as much as I can. I definitely appreciate their support, so I want to make sure I give it to them. Those are coming in, and those are what I like about independent comics is they allows me to find some genres that I don't normally play in. I am not a huge horror comics fan, or I should say, I don't have a lot of experience with horror comics, so I'm getting to read a lot of that, and I'm realizing that that's one of those things that's tough to do well, and my hat's off to those people that do it well. Horror looks easy, but it's not. And reading a lot of horror comics, some Westerns, some stuff that I normally don't read because I want to see what else is out there. And if there's one thing that the independent comics community has, it's a ton of really cool out there ideas.
I'm
reminded, that's pretty much it.
horror books and books for kids are two of the toughest things.
Yes, yeah. I almost feel like I would be more suited for books for kids than I would for horror books, and I don't know why that is, but to me, I find it's very difficult to write horror that isn't campy, and either I just lean into the camp 100%, or I wouldn't be doing it well, because I just don't feel like I'm very good at writing horror. And when I see people who do it well, I don't understand how they do it. They make it look easy, but I don't think it is.
I'm reminded of what Sam Raimi said about horror and comedy. Horror is horror, yeah. If you poke somebody in the eyes and blood spurts out, it's horror. If you poke someone in the eyes and it makes a sound effect, it's comedy. I guess that's just the difference. But what if you do both? Horror, comedy.
Right.
So who wants to show some books next?
Michael.
Or not. Or
I
yes.
I got unmute. I came from, I was at Fan Expo in Toronto.
Cool.
Now, I didn't spend that much money, so that's good. But I did get a few things that I was looking for. So this actually I got beforehand. So this is my favorite artist with the most accents in his name, Jose Garcia Lopez.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
So this is his Superman Adventures. I don't know. They're supposed to come out with the Batman Adventures. I'm not sure they're going to. It keeps getting delayed because it's DC. I sold this one when I sold my comics at a convention to go to university to raise tuition. I've regretted selling this ever since. It was signed by George Perez, Art Adams. And,
Wow.
I didn't get that one back, but at least I got the comic book.
Beautiful Sinky.
Nope, stop talking, go to jail.
If you know me, I've been collecting I've been trying to collect Nick Cardy, especially the Aquaman covers.
That is gorgeous.
I just fallen in love with him in the last year.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
And so I was really happy to get this. There's a few I really want. Especially the one where Black Mantis is standing over his logo and holding up Aquaman. That's the one I really, really want.
I had an opportunity to get a bunch of those a while back, but I didn't, just because the guy was doing an auction on YouTube and he kept talking about things being woke. I'm like, well, sorry, you're not getting my money.
I understand it. Yeah. I think it's Nick Cardy too. This was like in the dollar bin. I was
Wow.
about that.
Whose auction was that? Just private in the private chat. We don't have to call.
It was one that you were on with.
Oh, I bet you I can tell you that. It doesn't matter.
Probably.
It doesn't matter.
Now I hate this is a side thing. I hated when they did the checkerboard things.
I love the checkerboard.
But I love the covers and I love Pharaoh Lad. Gosh, if I was allowed to write for DC, I'd be doing Pharaoh Lad. He got short shifted.
Pharaoh Lad. Not Iron Man, but Pharaoh Lad.
Where's Arm Fall Off Boy when you need him?
And this one I've been looking for a long time. I found it in the $5 bin. I was happy. So this is the first appearance of the Fatal Five.
Wow, that's cool.
And they're all 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. You can count them. This one I was so happy to get at the convention because whenever I looked for it on eBay, it was like
that's nice.
Yeah, that is tougher to find.
But it was like $10. I was so happy.
Are you a Scotty fan or Scotty Young fan?
Yeah, Kirk loves it too. Yeah. But I love Iron Fist, so it's kind of a Venn diagram
got it.
of my two favorite. But I love, like when I saw this cover, yeah, I really wanted
Well, it's mine.
Yeah, I love the go-go checks.
Here's the big banger. So I don't do heritage auctions a lot because it's kind of overpriced, and trying getting things into Canada, it's pretty hard. But if you guys follow this and me in the chat, I often joke, well, not joke, but I love Richie Rich because I love rich people in shorts. That's one thing I love. And so this came up. I bid on it. I didn't think I'd win it. I actually had to pick up my daughter, so I just put in a maximum bid, left, thinking there's no way I'm going to get it for the price I put in. So it's 5 pages of original art from Richie Rich.
Oh, wow.
Warning.
No way.
Warning. Warning. Banger alert. Banger alert. Holy fucking shit. Look at that fucking book. Oh my fucking god. Look at that fucking book. Oh my fucking god. Look at that book. Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
I like turtles.
So this is Warner Kremer, the artist who created Richie Rich, and I think it's from about 1978. It's from Richie Rich and Dolly the Dog, #5. And yeah, I don't know if I'm just so happy I got it for a reasonable price. It was like $130, so for 5 pages of original art. So it blew my mind. I never thought in my lifetime that I could get it. But yeah, so this is my gold standard. I'm happy. I don't need any more original art, but yeah, so I'm really happy I got some original art from the artist who created Richie Rich. So that, yeah, that's definitely my banger. And that was my big score of the month.
Dude, I have all this stuff here in Mylar, and that beats everything I have here. So Lady is going to be right back. Kirk, I know that you had something special, so if you want to go grab that, and I'm going to play out your little intro because it's been a little while. You ready?
Now, I'd like you to think of something specific for your organization, and that you will not object to having disclosed.
Yes, I have something. Do I have to close my eyes?
It doesn't matter.
All right, yes, I have something.
These are comic books, and they're soaked. Soaked. Look, man, this is all soaking wet. That makes them worth nothing.
Nothing.
Shitola.
They dry myself.
You don't. I'm with you. I collect comic books. You don't dry them out. They're done.
You're gonna take Spider-Man, Napoleon, Scotland. Let me see that.
The explosion
on the mind.
classic. I just got one thing. I went to an A's game today, and the only reason why I went, well, I mean, they got their butts whooped, but the only reason I went is for this bad boy right here. They had like an exclusive Oakland A's Black Panther pop, so I grabbed that.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. Anything with Oakland on it, I'm like, yes, let's go.
That is absolutely a reason to pick something up, even if your team loses. Yes, absolutely, I will go.
Yeah, we left in the 7th inning.
You can even tell people later on, yeah, I went to this game, they won, everything was great. It's like, but no, shut up, they won.
That's awesome, though, dude. Super cute.
I love it. So, Lady,
all right.
Oh, you have a few books.
Yeah, I got
Lady.
stuff. Well, I want to show you a couple campy things. Y'all remember that I have this FemForce. This is Dolly Parton. I had 3 of them, and the 3 that I had were Dolly Parton, Princess Diana, and Oprah. These things are absurd, okay?
No way.
The fact that they exist, I think, is hilarious and absurd, so I have to have them. I found another one, and it is excellent. Fucking J.K. Rowling with the unicorn mean mugging her.
Giving her the side eye, going like, why are you such a turf?
Is this not the most absurd thing you've ever seen? I don't know why somebody thought this should exist, but I'm thankful for them because I love it. Like, this, obviously, Dolly has to, like, she's the shit. But, yeah, if I find these really rando weird ones, I always pick them up. I can't help it. Like, I found one, it was like friggin' the Civil War II choosing sides, and it's goddamn Justin Trudeau in a boxing ring. Like, I have to have that. So anyways, all right, there you go. And here's a couple I found. I like promos And here was a NASA promo that was this is the US NASA compliments of Radio Shack. So I really love finding these promotionals. I just have a thing. I dig them, and I found this. I think I want to say it's like early '60s, but Rails Across America and Uncle Sam, and then other like figures from history talk to this kid about different railway systems across America. It's weird, but I'm glad I found it. And then this is a Buster Brown comic book. And apparently, the Buster Brown Shoe Company put out these complimentary comic books for kids so they could read them while I guess they're looking for shoes or whatever. But this is 1955, which I believe Rob told me was the last year of the Golden Age, and that is just a rad book. Like, I'm sorry, dude, that's rad. That's killer. I love it. So, and then the last thing, I have picked this up. I have to give it. There's somebody I'm sending it to. This is issue 208 of Young Romance, and it is hilarious. So, it says, "Did I have to give up the girl I loved for the boy I loved? Excess baggage." So he says, I'm offering you my love, darling. Oh, I'm offering you my love, darling. That means Debbie can't tag along with us anymore. She's like, you don't know what it's like being alone. I won't give her up.
And if that was Peter Parker, he'd go like, wait, you want to throw Black Cat into the mix, Mary Jane? Absolutely.
So this is interesting.
And thus the threesome was invented.
Interesting. Final issue of the run, and I saw it and I'm sending it to somebody who it's just absolutely meant to go to. But I got in a chunk of books today from Comics for Cheap. 1957 on the rails. Yup. Thank you, Silver Knight Kyle. The Buster Brown 41, that art was extremely sophisticated for that time. I mean, really nice. And especially for something that's just like a rinky-dink giveaway. And it has like 3 different stories. All right. Comics for Cheap. Comics for Cheap is on Instagram. He's a really stand-up dude. He has great deals. His recent IG claim sale, I was able to pick up this Marvel 2-in-1 special double-sized issue 75, where it's the thing with the Avengers.
That Blastar?
Yeah.
Huh. Nice.
Yeah. So
I know Blastar's been around for freaking ever, but I'm only just coming into awareness of him.
Yeah, he was early on in FF, I know. Maybe Avengers too. There's 2 issues I need to complete this. This was one of the 2. Now just need issue 22, which is obviously the first appearance of Weapon H. I had a double of this, but I wanted to pick it up just because it's the first time.
Clintar.
Well, it's like Clintar, this little symbiote in space. They first come across that. So the first time they interact with the space symbiote responsible for Venom.
You sent me that book a while back.
I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love you.
Meow, meow. I got a bunch in just today, so I made a deal with Mr. Comics for Cheap for a fat old stack of Moon Girls and Devil Dinosaur, because I've been doubling and tripling up on them, because you guys don't even know it's gonna be the shit, the bomb. And my buddies Kirk and my buddies Rob are needing some. Like, wow. Like, whoa, wow. Okay, so this is what I got in.
Ooh.
issue 3. Rob doesn't have that, does he?
I only have one.
That is awesome.
Do you have 1 through 3, Kirk? Do you have this thing? Or do you just have issues 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, I have the first 3.
Okay, so but the individuals, the individual comics, or this? Because this is issue 1 through 3. It's timely one. I don't know.
It's 1 through 3. Interesting.
Yeah, that one is. But then there's
That's
like
a trade.
It's like a $20 book. It's still up there.
No, it's like a $60 book. So this is the first issue, just individual. But then they did a timely comics.
Oh, nice.
Where it's the first 3 issues. And yeah.
Oh,
I have never seen that in a shop.
Yeah,
All
me
right.
either.
All right. Anyways, issue 4. She's an Inhuman. It's just super fun, super cute. Issue 6. War. And
Hanging out with Bro Hope.
Issue 8.
That's right, Planet Arizona. Moon Girl is a good bet.
And Amy Reader's awesome. Issue 12.
Reflection covered.
Got a double, a dupe. So that one's definitely gonna be in the boys pile. Issue 13, one of my favorite covers. I'm a big science nerd. You can see she's kind of made some kind of weird engineered Rube Goldberg machine. Issue 16, which has always been a cute one, or I've always liked it.
Nice cover.
Yeah, it's super fun. So you've got Eternity in his cape. Issue 25. Issue 27. That's when she teams up with Fantastic Four. Issue 30. Still with the Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah. He's back because right before then he turned into Devin Dinosaur.
Yeah. Well, it's actually right after this he turns to Devin. It's the issue before this one he turns into Devin.
Oh.
Issue 34. Includes bonus activity page.
Yeah, we'll have a bonus at the end of this episode, too.
Yeah, 43. 44, one of my favorites. And 45. So yeah, those are some of the ones that I got in today, and I'm gonna file those away and then see what I got in terms of getting the doubles and shit for my buddy friends, Mr. Kirk and Mr. Rob.
I love it. Is that everything? Oh, Kirk's not here. He dropped out. Okay, so I guess I'll show some of the things that I got. Let's bring. Oh, he's kind of in now. There you go. Hey. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can show everything.
Yeah, sorry, my internet.
It's all right, brother.
We're used to it. We're fine. So I got one DC book. I mean, it's not a huge book or anything, but it's the first Silver Banshee. It's John Byrne on the title, so of course I'm going to get it. Just need to get that Superman 17 first, second appearance. I got the second volume of Usagi Yojimbo. This is a series that through Dark Horse went about 144 issues or so. I only have the first issue, and I only have the first issue of this one. There's a dude that was on an auction with Lady Fantastic that had Space Usagi. I want it, and if you hear us, contact me on Twitter at RobWorst.
I can't remember who had it.
Neither can I. I'd have to go back and watch a lot of videos, which I'm fine with. I'll get around to it. I got the first issue of Gru from not Pacific. This is the one through Marvel and Epic, but this is a long-running series, and I read it. It's fun. But when I was a younger kid, we were all about the Amazing Spider-Man and Gru. Oh, this is kid shit. I read it. It's good. I can be wrong, and sometimes it's good to be wrong and understand it and then promptly admit it. Because some people don't, and you can either be right or you can be happy, but you can't be both. So here's an old Avengers annual because I'm putting together my run of Avengers. I won't really show anything post 70s today. Here is Captain America 115.
Awesome.
And there's another guy. He has a show on YouTube. It's Fantastic Comics. His name is Yulebot over on Twitter. He's helping me to get some of these other Captain Americas that I'm missing. One of them is an issue 108. So
yeah, he runs a shop in Berkeley.
What happened? Kirk?
Yeah, he runs a comic book shop in Berkeley.
Oh, you've been there.
You hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Yeah.
I was watching his show, then he contacted me saying, yeah, hey, I saw the list. I can fulfill some of those. So after that 8 comes in, because Lady helped me out on one of them, I'll then have a full run of like 100 through about 125. And then I'll just be spotty for the rest of the 100s. And then just like this Hulk series back here,
Avengers
full run going.
You'll have 100 through 125.
Yeah, I saw that you got that 104.
Yeah,
that 104 is hella clean.
Thank you.
The
Avengers
America.
just came in. I should probably pull those down and show you because those are also new books that just came in. I had the 102, I had the issue 6, but now I have a Hulk 102 through 6. Jumps to 122. I picked up a few more today or on Friday. But yeah, I don't have a 181. But I will one
17.
day. Not today. All right.
Yeah.
Next. You got a Daredevil issue 100. This is back from the days when Black Widow was part of the Daredevil book. So I'm hoping that for the Daredevil Born Again series that's coming to Disney next year, that they're just going to start shooting very soon. I hope that they at least put Florence Pugh in it.
Who did that cover art?
This, oh lordy, I don't know.
Did you see the trailer?
What was that, Kirk?
Did you see the She-Hulk mid-season trailer?
No, not yet. And I still need to watch the last episode with Madison with 2 N's and a Y, but not where you think. I haven't even watched the episode, but at least I know that.
She is so great. You're gonna love it.
First Lady Deathstrike, but this is just when she's just known as Yukio. Then, because I got the first Damage Control a few weeks ago, here's the first issue of the first volume. Jumping over to the second volume, issue number 1. 90s books, people. I remember a while back, not even that long ago, really, when we would talk about 1990s comic books with not the reverence that you'd talk about Jack Kirby, but now 1990s books are 30 or more years old, and some of those are starting to creep up bit by bit. Those old X-Men, of which there were more than 1 million printed, some of those Jim Lee covers are about $40 a piece. They used to be in dollar bins, but hey, as I keep saying, one day, today will have been 20 years ago. I'll be an old man watching these YouTube videos going, hey, I look kind of good. While today I look at myself in these videos going, God, I got to lose weight. Fantastic Four issue number 7 of the annuals. This is the issue right after they have the first appearance of Annihilus. This reprints issue number 2 of the annual, giving you the anniversary of Doctor Doom, along with issue number 1 of the Fantastic Four. Here is Incredible Hulk number 120. Not a key book, but getting my fillers in.
Nice cover though.
You're a butthole, man. Yeah, I've been filling in my Hulks, but in the early 200s.
196. I don't have a 197. I need to find that because it's a Bernie
Man-Thing.
cover. Yeah. And Man-Thing, if you all happen to watch the new trailer that just dropped today from D23, there's a new trailer out for the new Disney Plus series for Werewolf by Night. It's going to be a horror. It's edited in black and white. It looks like an old Roger Corman film. And there's one quick shot of Man-Thing. And I've heard it could be a disaster. It could look good. I don't know. I'll reserve judgment till it comes out. Here's issue 199. Excuse me. Doc Samson.
What's up, Read More?
Hey, Read More. I had to pick this up. Jack of Hearts. It's a full run. Yeah, the Werewolf by Night trailer does look good. Hey, I watched it with Heather. Heather was over here going, yeah, Rob, I think that's all you. She's not a horror fan. I understand that. And hey, Wanda was described as horror. It wasn't quite horror. It was still a superhero story, but with some sitcom-ish elements. It had some horror elements, but it wasn't outright horror. Neither was Doctor Strange.
But like I would say, Multiverse of Madness had some Sam Raimi stuff.
Yeah. His kind of horror, which I can't even consider Sam Raimi's stuff horror because he looks at horror in the same way as he does the Three Stooges. That's my same comparison earlier in the episode where I was saying the difference between horror and comedy. He looks at it in the same vein, and that's what gives us Sam Raimi.
Take care, Kyle. Be safe, man.
Hi, Carl, love you. And I promise this isn't the final episode. We're just taking a short break. I had to pick this up. I was missing it. This is the issue.
Oh, I need that, man. I used to have like 3 copies of that.
I used to have the whole run, but back when I sold 8 long boxes going, I need to thin out my collection only to double it. I got rid of the whole run. So now I've pieced it together. I'm only missing a couple now. I had to pick this up because I ordered this about a year ago. And the guy said, I'm sending it for 6 months. Until finally, I can't find the book. I'll refund your money. Hey, I refunded your... It never came. So when I saw this, I'm like, I don't even care how much you're charging for it. I'm getting it. And I got it for half the price that I would have paid on eBay.
Cool.
Also found this from my comic shop. And again, this is where I get my comics from. His name is John Freshley. He does these little things every week. Claim sales and whatnot. So you can find him on Instagram at Miami Fresh Comics. There it is right here. This is where I get my books from. And this is what he had on Friday. First appearance of the Wrecker in Thor issue number 148.
Luis.
It's like a VGG at best, but still that's most of my journey into the mystery and Thor run. So it's fine. Now, I said earlier that I had some X-Men comics. They're not recent. They're not even like from the 300s or 200s or 100s. We're going to start off with issue number 19, the first appearance of Mimic.
Great character.
Sharp copy because this was John's original childhood comic book. He's like, you know what? I had doubles of these when I was a young kid, so I'm just going to get rid of some of them. He brought them, put them up on the wall. Nobody bought them, but I didn't have the money then. I had it on Friday, and I went, yeah, I'm going to take all of those. Like, but I'm taking all of them. It's like, well, knowing your collection, there's nobody else I'd rather have in their collection. Because he knows that they're going to go right into Mylar, like issue 30 here. Tight books. And jump over to issue 31. I showed this on Ladies' Channel the other week, and the whole reason why I got this one first a couple weeks ago is because Dan, he's Mr. Dan, over on Hood Rat Comics. And if you're not watching Hood Rat Comics, he's on Monday nights, and Dan has some great information. If you're not watching us, watch Hood Rat Comics. So he was talking about Cobalt Man because there's going to be Armor Wars coming up very soon, and they're going to be needing people that aren't Tony Stark now he's dead. So why not?
I've got a couple of Hulks that are really great covers that have Cobalt Man on it.
Me too. So good. That's how I got introduced to him.
Yeah, definitely. Issue 174 of Hulk is a great Cobalt Man cover.
Oh, yeah, Planet. Hey, I'm still missing plenty of books. I might hit you up. And yeah, Rob's breaking out the good stuff. And this is all stuff I literally just got. So here's next. This is the third appearance of the Juggernaut. All of these are really like, they're all like 6.0s and up, the books that he got for me. Now, this cover, I saw how the original looked. They had to redraw his face because it was originally a monster, and the comic code went, "You're going to scare the shit out of little kids. We can't put that out on a comic book." So they forced the artist to redraw the whole thing. That's why the head looks a little funny and very, very thick on the inks. Us as artists, I mean, I don't draw anymore. I don't ink anymore. But I know a mistake when I see one. It's like, oh, I think the ink kind of spread a little bit. I'll just add a little bit more texture on the line until that line becomes so heavy you're going, oh, I hope nobody notices. It's like, well, if you're an artist, you kind of notice. Hey, it's the first appearance of Meccano. If you don't know who he is, it's okay. Neither do I, really. Sharp copy, though.
Who?
Exactly. Who the hell's Meccano? I haven't seen him in a recent comic, I think, ever. Issue 1, or not 1. Issue 37. And
That's a great cover.
yeah, then we're going to jump on over to 47. I don't have a 49. I still need a 49. I got a 50. A 50. It's right here. Here's 48.
Beautiful.
And the last one. Yeah, my last episode where I fuck up an X-Men. And the last one that I got here, issue 62. The whole series ends at what, 66 or 64? And that
I think 67 or 68, I think.
Yeah, one of those, it starts reprints all the way through 93. So once I get to those, I'm going to stop. Because if you have it, why get the reprint? It's like going, hey, I have Jungle Action 6 through like 24. What about issue 5? Like, that's a reprint of the first.
Yeah, it starts at 67 is the first reprint.
Yeah, so that's pretty much been all the books that I got over the course of the other week. Now, again, this isn't the last episode. We will be coming back. This is just a short little break. Anybody that we had scheduled, I'm sorry. We will be trying to figure things out maybe later on in the future. But when we come back, we're probably going to focus more on just the comics themselves and more just about the community aspect. But again, I just want to give everybody the opportunity right now to say, hey, where are we going to be in the upcoming future? Like Twitter, like YouTube, like other appearances. So, Jeff, I know that since you still have another couple days left on the Kickstarter, are there any more appearances you're going to be making on YouTube or anywhere else from conventions or otherwise?
Actually, right now, this is actually the last YouTube channel / podcast that I'll be doing. The campaign ends on September 13th, so a couple days left. I'd like to encourage anyone to go check it out. It's Accidental Renegades on Kickstarter. Currently about 178% funded, so definitely coming out. No worries about that. I think everyone's going to be really happy with the book. And like I say, if you like books with humor, books with heart, and books with hitting, you can find those types of comics out there, but Accidental Renegades has all three. I think you'd really enjoy it. So that's on Kickstarter right now under Accidental Renegades for about another 2.5 or so days, about 2.5 days. As far as social media, just remember Zed Comics Original, Zed Comics Original on Facebook, on Instagram, and the letter Z Comics Original on Twitter. And then the website is zedcomicsoriginal.com, where you can find some fan art, some original characters, and some sequential art. Well, I'm really glad to be on this. I'm sad to see you go, but looking forward to having you come back. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, we'll be back soon enough, probably no later than October. I just want to, some of those little clips that you saw earlier on where, like that thing that I did for Kirk and that whole edited video. I love doing those little things. I just don't have the time to do them. Yeah. I'd like to be able to make quite a few of those so that when we come back, that it's a more engaging, fun, funny, everyone's laughing, having a good time, looking forward to doing it instead of going, oh God, we have a show tonight. Oh, we don't like that. When we do that, I feel like I'm not giving enough of myself to the community, and I feel like I need to do that. So, Michael, anything coming up over on Twitter or any appearances you're making?
No, I'm just keeping by myself.
Just looking like your pretty self. Lady, any appearances you're making?
No, I'm gonna continue to do my little Ring of Power reviews because I've just been having a good time. But you know, I'm excited to get back to the roots and just like talk about the things that are our passions and show the books that really get us going and sharing that with the community and it would be great to integrate community members to come on and maybe share some of that stuff with us too. This is not the end, nerds. We'll be back.
Absolutely. I mean, we want people like Planet Arizona Comics. We see him in the chat all the time. We want to be able to talk to our own community.
Yeah, we want y'all to like come on with the stack and be like, here's what I love and here's why I love it. You know what I mean?
Like back during the beginning of the pandemic when all of us kind of lost our jobs at the same time and just started jumping on these 24, 48-hour YouTube channels. That was some of the greatest times that I've had being a comic collector on a YouTube channel. And it was through people like Dusty Brick Brown, people like Jig's Kingdom and Perry Comics. And those were a lot of fun. And I want to kind of rekindle that. But in order to do that, we need to take a little bit of time off, a little bit of reassessment, watching other people to see what we like about their stuff, incorporate it, and maybe do a kick-ass channel once again.
For sure, Arizona, man. I you know, I love learning about people through the comics that they enjoy. You know, you know, and it always shows. You know, it's a way of learning about people without them telling you. You know what I mean? So, anyways,
yeah, sometimes you learn more about what people don't say.
We have no idea how to do this either, and that's why we're just kind of having a good time, man.
We'll all figure it out. Planet Arizona. If you're on Twitter, I'm Rob Worst on Twitter.
Well,
talk with us. We're here.
I will say I'm going to be on G-Man's tonight.
Me too.
Oh, are you? I got a nap in, so I'll be able to stay up that late.
I've had 3 Monster Energy drinks and a colada. I'm awake.
You're so crazy.
You might need a pee bottle.
Michael's all coked up. That's right.
Yeah, I got mine.
Everybody's all coked up. All right, man.
Oh, last person we can't forget. Hey, Kirk. Any other appearances you making?
No, not this week. Hood Rat Comics is there. They are having a show on Monday. Go check it out. Like Rob said, Dan's portion is always great, and it's always cool to hear like what trending comic books, what trending and not trending comic books are coming out, or all the panel members' opinions. So check it out on Monday, same time, 8:00, West Coast time. So if you're on the East Coast, my bad. we trying. A lot of us are night owls, so you should be up. But yeah, I won't be doing any other shows. I also want to start trying to getting more back to the roots of why I started doing comic book YouTube stuff too. So I like that idea. Yeah, it'll be interesting to take the couple weeks off. But I don't have anything else coming up.
And even right now, as we're signing off, Two Brothers Comics is signing on, so it's not like there's going to be a dearth of things to watch on comic book related YouTube. Plus, tonight at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be having Robert the G-Man Galvin. Some of us will be making an appearance on there. Otherwise, stay tuned to the Not Near Mint YouTube channel. Take a look over at the beautiful artwork from Richie Rich that Michael Malone has.
Lucky dog.
He is lucky. And the fact is, we're going to be back. This isn't our last episode. We just needed a little bit of time to recoup, maybe refresh a little bit, so that way y'all can have just as much fun as we're having over here. Because when we're surrounded by this many comics, we shouldn't be going, oh God, what do we have to do next? Because when you're at that point, you go into survival mode, and that only lasts for so long. So remember, we're going to drop down here at the very bottom as we do normally, where if there are people out there that are running into issues, problems, you're not alone. I myself am an alcoholic of 3 years sobriety. And the reason why I did this show initially was because I wanted to stay sober. Stay busy and you'll stay sober. But
Put it on me.
Oh,
put it on me.
Put it on, lady.
I suffer from crippling depression.
Me too.
Woo!
Wait. That's pretty much why we're not near mint. We know that we're not perfect. We're not about perfection. We're about progression. We're trying to do better, but we don't need to strive to be perfect because we are perfect just the way we are. We just need a little time to rest. And when we rest, we'll be back. So make sure you subscribe, like if you like this video. And when you subscribe, hit that notification button, because the second that we drop some of these videos, which will be like at the very tail end, where you'll see all the new books I picked up that I'm putting to music now. It's not my music. I like techno music, specifically trance music. So stay tuned at the very tail end of this episode as you'll see the new comic book set to some music. So until next time, read your comics, buy comics like Don't Do Drugs, Captain America, like Michael over here singing to silence, like Kirk over here showing you Black Panther. And don't forget that there's a comic book out there called Accidental Renegades, and it's put out by Jeff Zanolotti. My name is Rob Worst. This has been Not Near Mint. Thank you for 3 years. We will be back very soon. Read more comics. Sign me up over at the Twitter. Don't bother with me over on Instagram. And we will see you very, very soon. So stay tuned. I'm going to come right back to myself in just 1 minute to queue up what I'm going to show you. So nighty-night all. Love you. Subscribe to each other, and love one another as much as you do your books. Good night. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to see this episode again, along with a catalog of back episodes and issues, surf on over to Not Near Mint on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Bonus content, I want y'all to turn your volumes up. This is Andrew Rayel featuring Adil Feels Like Home. Turn your volume up, ladies and gentlemen. This is your tune of the week.
Now running for the next flight. I'm making my way back to you. Oh, it's a good to realize that I'm lost without you, and I could try to run away, but baby, now, baby, you're the one who feels like
This is your Not Near Mint tune of the week. This is Not Near Mint. Good night, everybody. Till next time.